Olá a todos, bem-vindos a este canal. Welcome to the channel. My name is Sofia. Today I talk about a grammar aspect. So today I will explain in English. If you are new to the channel, every Thursday I am posting new videos. In 1 week I explain in English and another week I explain in Portuguese. In English, I explain videos more related to grammar or technical aspects of learning the language itself. In another week, I explain in Portuguese aspects related to history, curiosities, or any other cultural aspect. This week, I want to share with you the different ways of saying maybe in Portuguese. So, in Portuguese, there are different ways of saying maybe. So, not just one, but multiple ways of saying the word maybe. And understanding the differences can help you to sound more natural in everyday conversation. Let's go through the most common ones together. Part 1, I talk about the classics. The classics are Talvez e se calhar. So, both of these two words are very much the direct translation of maybe. In here, there is something very important to know. This is not just about which one is more used than the other, but it's also to understand in what part of the country are you. Let's start by seeing in general what are the meaning of talvez e se calhar. Talvez is the most standard way of saying maybe. You can use it in almost everyday conversation and situation. But whenever you're using talvez, it requires that you use conjuntivo. For example, talvez eu vá ao cinema. Maybe I will go to the cinema. The second is se calhar. This is very Portuguese and is super common. Perhaps it's a little bit more informal. For example, se calhar ela já saiu. Maybe she already left. We have se calhar and we have talvez. Why I say it's important to know in which part of the country are you. I have been talking with different students located in different areas of the country, and I myself have been living in Algarve, but also in the north of Portugal while I was studying, and so my exposure to the language has been quite broad across the country, and I've noticed in certain areas one word is more used than the other. So, for instance, just in one of my previous classes, one of my students was saying how way more often in Lisbon people will use the word se calhar. My experience in Algarve, also people use a lot talvez. So, in a way, they can be quite interchangeable. What I find useful about talvez e se calhar, both are very much a standard word for maybe, and both have itself its informal aspects. But talvez requires you to use conjuntivo, which is a much more complicated conjugation, especially for students who just started. Se calhar allows you, for example, to use indicativo. So this is something you can take notice as well for yourself and for your way of expressing in the language. The part 2 of this video is informal and a bit more expressive ways of saying maybe. The first one is pode ser. You have to be careful with pode ser because pode ser can also mean something else. So literally, pode ser means could be. And it is used when we are agreeing or being unsure. A less literal way of saying maybe. For example, queres ir ao cinema? Do you want to go to the cinema? Pode ser. Pode ser can be maybe. So we are agreeing with a degree of uncertainty. Another way, quem sabe? Quem sabe means who knows, but it's used to mean maybe in a more dreamy and speculative way. For example, quem sabe dia viajamos juntos? Who knows, maybe one day we will travel together. É capaz de ser is used to express a mild speculation. It might be. É capaz de chover hoje. It might rain today. Perhaps it will rain today. Now we take a look at the part 3. Part 3 is nuanced options. First one, pode ser que sim, pode ser que não. More elaborate than the previous one. So in the previous one I mentioned pode ser, which means could be. And now I'm adding pode ser que sim ou pode ser que não. Literally meaning maybe yes, maybe no. For example, achas que ela vai aceitar? Do you think she will accept? Pode ser que sim. Maybe yes. Perhaps yes. The next one is depende. Depende is not exactly maybe. It's perhaps from all the expressions I have shared with you today, the least close to it, but it can be sometimes used in similar situations. So I found it interesting to cover in this video and share with you. Depend means it depends. For example, queres ir à praia amanhã? Do you want to go to the beach tomorrow? Depende do tempo. Depends of the weather. This one, as same as the other one, the pode ser que sim, pode ser que não, these nuanced options, pode ser que sim ou não, ou depende, they cannot be directly translated to maybe. But what I find very interesting in these nuanced options is that they come along with that intentionality and expression of a maybe, of we're not making a compromise. Maybe yes, maybe no, depends on the weather. So they are not literally the word maybe, but they come along with that emotional and that intentional uncertainty. So let's recap. First, we saw the literal meaning of maybe, the most used forms. However, to take care that depending on the regions, depending also on the person, because of course each person will ultimately have its more preferable ways of expressing words that find it more interesting. So depending on the region, but also depending on a personal level, one can be more used than the other. But these two literal ways of saying maybe are talvez, se calhar. If you aren't sure on how to write se calhar, watch my latest short on the differences to write se calhar together as one word or se calhar separate as two words. The second part, I talked about informal ways. This is pode ser, quem sabe, é capaz de ser. And then I talk about the nuanced options. Pode ser que sim, pode ser que não, depende. Now it's practice time. Now it's your turn. Agora é a tua vez. Let's practice together. I will say the sentence in English and you will try to say it in Portuguese using one of the expressions you just learned, okay? So let's start. Maybe I will go to the party. Talvez eu vá à festa. Maybe he is busy. Se calhar ele está ocupado. Who knows? Maybe one day. Quem sabe? Dia. Great job! If you have completed this video and you are now here with me, congratulations! So practice using each one in different situations. The more variety you have, the better. Not only for your own expression, but also when people speak to you, you have more tools in your toolbox to understand them. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and share this video with a friend that you think might be interested in learning Portuguese and this specific topic. Once again, thank you so much for your support. And if you want to really improve your everyday speech, make sure to watch the full video from the start to the finish and check out the other videos in my channel. I hope this helps. See you soon. Até já!